Grape Expectations with myself, Andrew from Vintage 82. Today we're going to discuss temperature and wine. What temperature should you store and what temperature should you serve wine? Two different temperatures, most important. So, when storing wine, this is an easy one. When storing wine, you should store all wines, be it sparkling, red, white, rosé or sweet, at the same temperature. And that is between 13 degrees Celsius and around 17 degrees Celsius. If you've got your own wine cellar or a wine fridge, that's perfect. Keep it at that storage temperature. Try not to deviate too much. If the temperature does go a little bit below that or a little bit above that, it's not the end of the world. But the ideal temperature is definitely between 13 and 17 degrees. I would also suggest that if you're storing wine for the long term, make sure you've got no vibrations in the room, possibly no washing machine right next to your wine fridge, no direct sunlight, and also the humidity. So anything over 70% humidity, the problem with that is the labels would end up destroyed. Whereas if you go less than around 60% humidity, you may have a problem of the cork drying out. So do try and keep it between 60 and 70% humidity. Now we come to the maybe more complicated part, and that's serving of wine. Now when you serve wine, we all know the old adage that white wine is to be cooled down to fridge temperature and red wine is to be drunk at room temperature. But first of all, if you're living in a warm island like Malta or Mallorca or in a warm area such as south of France, you're on a boat, it's hot outside, room temperature is not the room temperature that sommeliers were referring to when serving wine. If you're outside in 35 degrees Celsius, you're going to be drinking warm, flabby wine. So what we do suggest is the room temperature to be around 18 degrees Celsius. And that is pretty much taken out from your wine fridge or your wine cellar, leaving it warm up maybe just a few degrees and drinking it immediately. That's if we are expecting full-bodied, rich wine. When it comes to, so for example, the Torbreck over here, this is a nice Shiraz, this is a very big, bold, potent, high tannins. Then I would expect drinking this slightly warmer than I would as a Pinot Noir. A Pinot Noir I can possibly chill slightly, maybe even put it in a nice bucket if it's nice and warm outside. Makes it a little bit fresh. However, do be careful, don't over chill your red wine. What happens is when you over chill the red wine, it ends up somewhat mute. So we really kill off the flavors. But what we do is we put it in a nice bucket just for a while, then pour it into your glass. It will warm up a little bit in your glass and the flavors will start to emerge. Same thing with white wine. Let's start with, for example, champagne. Champagne should be served cold. 6 to 8 degrees, fridge temperature, straight from the fridge, you can serve it. When it comes to a nice, easy, refreshing, light Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Gavi de Gavi, nice and young, and you want it to be really there, fruity, again, we can serve that pretty well chilled, maybe around 8 degrees Celsius. But what happens when we have a white wine that is maybe a little bit aged in oak, a Chardonnay? We've got a beautiful Merceau over here by Joseph Drouin. It's a 2017 vintage, which is, I would say, relatively young. And this wine requires that slight warmth to it. So I would probably get it out of the fridge maybe even around 10-15 minutes before actually drinking it. Let it warm up a little bit in the glass. I'm not saying serve it warm. I'm not saying serve it warm. I'd say slightly chilled. So probably around 12 degrees Celsius. That should be the ideal temperature for maybe a richer wine. Rosé wines can also take quite a bit of cold temperature. So I would serve rosé wine directly from the fridge. Probably rule of thumb would be is the richer the wine, the warmer it should be served. The lighter the wine, the cooler it could be served. When it comes to these lighter grapes, you can probably play around a little bit with the temperature. So if you chill it a little bit too much, don't stress. leave it warm up in your glass till it's up to your desired temperature. So let's make sure that we're drinking wines at the right temperature and really getting the experience, really getting the best out of the bottle. Here's to the next one. Chin chin.